One thing that I was never used to was seeing cars with over 150,000 miles being available at new car dealerships. It was one of those things where it was like automatic. If you were trading in a car with more than 100,000 miles, it was probably going to go to auction. Hell, if it had more than say like 60 or 70,000 miles, it was probably going to auction. Right now, a lot of new car dealers are fighting over vehicles with 150 or more thousand miles. That was a terrible way to say that. With 150,000 or more miles. And it's just strange to me that people are actually buying them. The way that they're being perceived is that, hey, if I'm going to buy a 150,000 or more mileage car, I might as well just buy it from a new car dealership. Wrong, because you're in essence just getting a little bit pretty, a little bit more of a dressed up version of something you could have got off of Facebook or Craigslist. Realistically speaking, I don't think buying a car that's more than, say, 6 or 7 years old off of a new car dealer is a good idea, and I'll explain a little bit as to why and what you should do instead in this video. What is happening, guys? Ari here from negotiationguides.com, and by clicking here or the link in the description below, you'll be able to shop around for new and used vehicle pricing from dealerships in your local area. If you're new here, please consider subscribing because this whole channel is going to teach you everything you're going to need to know so that you can negotiate your best possible deal. You guys, let's get down to business. I don't think that buying a car with 150,000 or more miles or older than 6 years is a bad idea. Don't get me wrong. Don't try to take what I'm saying right now as being a whole situation type of a thing. It's more so if you're buying it from a new car dealer. New car dealers typically like to see between a 20 to 30% profit margin on their vehicles. Given the fact that right now, any used car that you see is marked up by about 40 to 50% versus what it should have been, say like 3 years ago. So say if we got a $10,000 Honda Accord 3 years ago, that same $10,000 Honda Accord would likely be selling for about $14,000 to $15,000. And it sucks because if you were to take that $10,000 Honda Accord, it'll likely sell for about $13,000 on the private market, and if you're seeing it at a dealership with $15,000 or $16,000 price tag, a lot of people will assume that that's a better Honda Accord just because it has some nicer pictures or some sort of free Carfax was given out in the listing, as opposed to some guy you saw on Craigslist that barely could write how many miles the thing had precisely. You got to get used to the fact that you may have to meet some random guy in a parking lot to get a better deal at this point. And what the dealership is trying to do is dress up that same car in a more convenient and a little bit more false sense of security-like package for you. When you're buying these cars from the new car dealer, expect that anything with over 150,000 miles, especially if you're inching toward that 200,000 mile mark, is gonna be worth nothing in a few years. By spending that much money on a car that's going to be worth nothing, you're literally minimizing your purchase on the spot, because guess what? The chances of you having to do a major repair on that car are through the roof past 150,000 miles. That's a fact. Now, what I suggest is if you're going to be buying this type of vehicle, to definitely buy it privately. What I think is that if you're looking at a 150,000 mile or more car, the right thing to do is to spend a little bit more money and dip back into the 100,000 mile range. Why? Typically, those vehicles with 100,000 miles have some sort of equity a few years after you purchase it, especially if you're only doing the average mileage, 12,000-ish miles per year, and you can actually keep it under 150,000 miles a few years from now. You may actually recuperate some of your money. Another thing is that if you're trying to buy that car and pay with some outside financing, as in taking out a loan on that car, you may not actually qualify to get financed on the vehicle with 150,000 or more miles, because it wouldn't qualify for the lender's financing. A lot of lenders, especially if your credit isn't so good, they will not finance a car that's more than 120,000 miles and more than a certain age. I think that by choosing something that's 6 years or less, or with less than 120,000 miles, you're at a sweet spot where, yes, it may cause you a few problems down the line in terms of mechanics go, you're also at a price point where you could justify that. Now, I don't think that you should opt for something with more than this because of what the residual value is going to be like a few years from now. Really, a lot of these cars that are cropping up at new car dealerships with more than 150,000 miles are not meant for the typical consumer. They're meant for a price tag shopper. They're meant for somebody that may actually have a mechanic in the family or a friend that does it. It's meant for that type of a person that's paying with cash. It's not meant for the typical consumer that's looking to finance the vehicle or looking to have a little bit of equity at the end of ownership. It's just a terrible purchase decision unless you're getting that particular vehicle, same sort of vehicle, on the private market. You guys, I don't want to discourage you away from buying vehicles with more than 150,000 miles, more than 6 years old. It's not that. It's buying them from franchise dealerships that are overpricing that same vehicle, and it's likely to be the same vehicle that you can get from, again, Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or someplace like that. Again, you guys, by clicking here or the link in the description below, you can shop around for new and used vehicle pricing. And if you found this information useful, please consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.